The Phoenix Suns took care of business against the Portland Trail Blazers on New Year's Day to win their fourth straight game. On today's episode of Locked On Suns, how Bradley Beal and yes, Bol Bol helped them do it. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 7 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to start off your Tuesday. Hope you are enjoying the new year. Hope you are enjoying the Suns wins. If you're finding us for the first time, hit follow, hit subscribe. Get a new show in your feed every single Monday through Friday. Become an everydayer. Get locked on to the Phoenix Suns all season long right here with the show. Today's episode brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the promo code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Final score, 109-88. The Suns beat the Portland Trail Blazers. Here to talk through the W with us is Brandon Dueñas, as he does every week. He is a writer over at Bright Side of the Sun. And Brandon, fortunately, I think for this game, we don't have a whole ton of deep basketball analysis to do. The Suns took care of business not only against a team that's not been very good this year, but also one that was without the majority of its roster tonight. No DeAndre Ayton for Portland, no Anthony Simons. Shaedon Sharpe was on a minutes restriction, so they were basically taking the L, and the Suns just had to accept it from them. But one thing we did see is Bradley Beal, 21 points, 50% shooting from the field, played 34 minutes, which is another good sign, I think, too, on the second night of a back-to-back, and didn't look hampered at all. In fact, was kind of the only big bright spot consistently through the game for the Suns. What did you like about Beal's big night to lead the Suns to a win that, honestly, I mean, if this is just a Booker night, back when Beal had been out and Durant had to sit this one, it might have been a lot closer, even with Portland's injuries.
Yeah, for sure. That's the luxury of having a healthy Bradley Beal in the rotation, right? Like in a night where Durant doesn't play and you're on a second of a back-to-back and Bol Bol is outscoring Devin Booker, you'd think this team would be in trouble. But they weathered the storm, and Beal's looked pretty good 2 games in a row now. And I think for that to come on a back-to-back, I don't care who the opponent is, it just seems like he's sort of like starting to fall back down into his typical game day routine and just, feel for the game instead of trying to force stuff or, he's flowing within the offense, and that's what you want to see the most. So I think his ability to step up and take some pressure off Booker when he does have an off night like this, an off shooting night, like it just makes his team a lot more dangerous. And again, like, yes, they're taking care of business against a team that they're supposed to win. But when you see them get outscored by 9 points in the first quarter, you're like, all right, these guys are just hungover. It's a New Year's Eve, just debacle, or like, are we really going to lose to the Blazers again? And they stepped up and kind of put their foot down, and like, credit to Bill for doing that.
Yeah, there were 2 stretches in both halves in the moments when he was the only of Booker and between Booker and him in the staggered minutes. And I know Bol was on the court for those moments. I believe Bates Diop was on the court for most of them. I think in one case it was Allen, in one case it was Gordon. Maybe Metu was out there for part of it. But in both of those situations, the Suns went on huge runs. That was the beginning of the second quarter when they were down 9 and turned it into like a 6-point lead. And then at the beginning of the fourth quarter, when you were kind of just hoping that they could slam the door shut, end the game, and it ended up lingering a little bit longer than I think you would have liked, but that's a huge testament to Beal. It's not like he piled on, had a 40-point game or a million assists tonight, but it was his aggressiveness, his kind of unselfishness, and just being able to stabilize those lineups, I think, went a long way. Defensively, too, he guarded Scoot Henderson a lot of the night, and in those lineups, that was really the defense that turned things around. Again, like, this was a game they should have won. This was not the sexiest victory you're ever going to see, but sometimes this is how games are, and you still want guys to make a positive impact, and especially with how weird of a season he's had, it was nice to just see him kind of click into something that you wouldn't expect him to have chemistry with, or wouldn't expect him to necessarily be able to kind of put a team on his back like that so quickly after returning.
Yeah, I think these last two games for Beal have been the first two that it's really felt like he's actually like on the Suns, if that makes sense. Like where it just felt more like what we came to expect of like when we first acquired Bradley Beal. Like this is what we're going to get, and obviously there's going to be a grace period where he's still going to have to learn how to play off Durant and Booker. But I thought it was also kind of nice for those two to get some minutes together and play off each other. And obviously they staggered, like you said, and Beal was a team high plus 22 tonight as well. So that just kind of, that's a testament to what you said earlier. Like the numbers that don't jump off the charts with, he didn't get a ton of assists, and 21 for him is not like some crazy game by any means, but he just kind of played within the flow of the offense. And I think the team was just better when he was out there. And that's a really good sign. I don't care if they're playing the Adelaide 36ers, like it doesn't matter to me. Like that's just an encouraging sign to see him in consecutive games without a minute restriction, just kind of looking like himself again.
Does it surprise you that they're giving him the kind of more difficult defensive matchup than Booker a lot of these nights? Because for a lot of this game, they had, if Shaedon Sharpe was on the court, and it was kind of like the best Blazers lineup, they had, and obviously Metu had to guard Grant, but they had Allen on Brogdon, Beal on Scoot, and Booker on Thibault. Is it surprising to you how, like, one, they're giving Beal difficult assignments? He guarded Franz Wagner at times last night, and the fact that Booker's being kind of protected that much. That's jumped out to me. I don't know what you think of it.
Yeah, a little bit. Like I don't think it's. I thought it'd be a little more like back and forth, like switching those two off. But I think just kind of like you see with any player on a bad team for several years, like in Washington, just I think his defensive reputation was sort of soured by the fact that when he tried and he was actually defending like in important games or moments, like he showed he's a capable defender. So I feel like reputation kind of plays a factor in like expectations of what I think we all thought his role was going to be defensively. But yeah, I think with Booker just taking on such a huge playmaking role too, and just kind of struggling to get a shot going, like it kind of makes sense. But I am definitely a little bit surprised there. It's a good observation.
Yeah, there are times when, like tonight, I tweeted about it that Gordon was guarding Scoot and Booker was on the court, and it's like, come on. Like, I know it's this game's not a great one to pull from because it is the Blazers and all the injuries I mentioned, all the reasons the Suns should have won this game. But sometimes I'm just like, okay, come on. Like, still just, I don't know. It's obviously going to change come postseason time, but I'm always of the kind of opinion of like, well, at least just play and plan around how you're ultimately going to play. Don't have to adjust that strongly. But if Beal can slot in there, Yeah, no,
I was just saying, I think that whole game plan goes out the window of a back-to-back on New Year's. Like they're just kind of, let's conserve Booker's energy and give Durant the night off and just,
when did Booker go to sleep last night? What do we think there?
We need an over-under on that. DraftKings now.
It's
hopefully before 2 a.m., but who knows?
Feels like not, but
yeah.
It was also kind of interesting. Right, exactly. It was interesting though that too, Vogel was so, I don't know if you saw the comment on during his pregame that he was adamant Durant was not being rested. And it's like, I don't think the Suns would have been breaking any sort of rule with the new procedures and restrictions on stuff because it was a home game. It is the second night of a back-to-back. And I think they kind of check all their boxes. So I don't know. It was interesting that Vogel was like, he's not being rested. He's hurt. He's day to day. We don't rest people. It's like, okay. I think everyone would have understood if you just wanted to rest Kevin Durant. But all right, let's move on to the real man of the hour, Bol Bol, and the rotation. It wasn't just him. Vogel did tell us pregame that he was expecting to put Bol Bol on the court, and he did, and Bol answered the call. So what does that mean? What did the rotation tell us as it continues to evolve basically nightly lately? We'll get into all that next. First, today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks has come in. They have fixed daily fantasy sports. They have made it fun. They have made it unique. I used to hate it, but I love Prize Picks. And right now with basketball season here, you can pick from combo projections across football and basketball from Prize Picks Specials League. That's a league created specifically for combo projections, including 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, toss LeBron James and Travis Kelce in there together for a 10.5 combo of threes made plus receptions. Maybe you want to go local. You go Kyler Murray, rushing touchdowns plus Booker threes. You could do all sorts of different things. Poke around, see what's up. Prize Picks makes it you versus those projections. There's no head-to-head. There's no league. There's no pools. It's you versus the Prize Picks player projection. If you can beat them, you can win. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, plus an enormous selection of players and stat types, all combined to make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA when you make your first deposit to get it matched up to $100. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, we're keeping it rolling. Let's jump to the bench, Brandon, where Bol Bol played 20 minutes, 11 points, 9 rebounds, 5 fouls, yes, 2 turnovers, sure, but even if he had not scored double figures, even if he had only played like 8 minutes because they didn't blow them out and there were no fourth quarter minutes to be had, I still would have said that was the best we've seen Bol play as a Sun because he executed. He didn't make boneheaded mistakes. He just looked like a rotation guy out there, and I don't know what happened between now and the last time he played, but I never would have said that in another one of the games he appeared in until today.
Yeah, I mean, it's bowl season in college football, and it's Bol Bol season here in Phoenix, so it's kind of fitting that it came tonight. But I think this is a perfect game for him to get his confidence up. You're playing against the Blazers, it's low pressure. I thought he did make some impactful plays that kind of swung the momentum of the game early, which was nice to see. And I think anytime you get a young player with just injecting with a little bit of confidence, I think that can rub off and hopefully snowball into future games, because I think there is a world in which Bol Bol does, can contribute meaningful minutes, but it has to be with the right group, and he has to be playing confident and not, second guessing himself. So I think, the dream is still alive. Obviously the stocks are at an all-time low, but we're back here slowly, and we're not gonna get too excited, but I think there's definitely something there. And I thought his energy was awesome. And, I thought he also handled the crowd noise pretty well too. Sometimes when you're a fan favorite, they just want you to shoot every shot. And he did a good job of not forcing things and just kind of making the right play instead of trying to make it the Bol Bol show. And that's what I was looking at the most.
Yeah, I don't know. I've said on the podcast before, I feel a little weird about the cheering when he's out there. I think that people kind of treat him like a show pony or like a circus freak a little bit, and it doesn't probably feel great to him. So maybe just, if you're one of those people, maybe just keep that in mind a little bit. He didn't ask to be 7'3". He didn't ask to be, the son of who he's the son of and all these other things. Just kind of, he's a human, but I think you're right. And I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's the pressure of the minutes coming and going. I don't know. But he's made a bunch of really bad mistakes most of the time that he's played, especially on the defensive end. I thought he was pretty solid. The one play, too, on the offensive end that just flashed, I think, a little bit more of okay, maybe things are coming along here, is the assist that he had, which I believe it was on a 3. I can't remember who took it, maybe Gordon and he had he could have taken a three because nobody can really contest his shot in the corner. But he caught the pass, took a couple dribbles along the baseline to draw the second defender toward him away from the floor spacer that was standing on the wing, whoever it was that he ended up passing it to. When that help came, he got the ball right to that shooter who then made the shot. It's like, that's very simple. That's very kind of 0.5 Monty Williams type of principles of reading and reacting and knowing where you're going with the ball, knowing what you want to be doing. But for a guy who has not played a lot of basketball, even dating back to high school, and has looked so lost most of the time, that play jumped out to me. I'm like, okay, he gets it. He's comfortable. He's processing things a little better. So yeah, did you sell all your stock? Was there still some left in the account? How are you doing? Do you have to buy it all back at a higher price now? Where are you at?
No, I think it was at such a low price that I just kind of held on to it because you're not going to get much in exchange for it. So, still had some left over, but yeah, okay. I thought his contesting of shots too, like you'd see like shots fall short, and that's just a direct result of his length. And I think once Durant's back, and they could really, I want to see some more experimenting with their lineups, especially with the size they can throw out there. So I think this is a good stepping stone game for him. So we'll see if he can do this consistently, or and once they get their guys back, and if he can, it's just a bonus at this point. So I think getting the big three healthy is the main thing. But if Bol Bol ends up being a rotation player, then we're cooking with grease.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but Udoka Azubuike just didn't play tonight. And I think part of that is the matchup. The Blazers have Baji, I believe he's a rookie, and similar guy, very long, athletic, raw guy, also born in Africa. Maybe that kind of competitiveness got Bol up a little bit for this one. Maybe, I don't know if they personally know one another, but we see it with Nurkic. He wants to beat the hell out of all the Eastern European dudes. So I'm sure that kind of thing probably had something to do with it, but you're not going to put Azubuike out there. They did, but it didn't go great. And, with a much taller, more, long, so Bol made sense. I don't know if that will be the case in the future, but I like the other part of what we saw from a lineup standpoint with how they used him too, which was not having him be the only big guy out there. Like I don't remember every single lineup he's ever played with, but I think at one point they had him and Eubanks out there together. That's odd because Eubanks is not big, but also can't shoot. So then it's like you're just making it harder on everybody. If you put a bunch of like the Nasir Little types out there with him and you're asking him to be like a legit center, that's not great. So he played with Nurkic tonight. He played with Metu and some other size. Had a Kogi out there as a point of attack defender. Like, it seemed like they kind of clicked of what to do around him when he's out there too. So maybe that gives them some more confidence. I'm not too sure. What else jumped out to you from the rotation though? Because we're seeing it evolve almost every single night. I thought we had settled on what we were going to be able to watch every night with the 9 guys that played. Now Durant misses a game and Beal's back, and it feels like we're back to square one.
Yeah, it feels like it's never going to settle, right? It's just like every night there's going to be someone new that steps up, and you sort of talk yourself into them, and then the next night they're just a DNP or just have zero impact at all. So it's just kind of feels like a revolving door, but at the same time it could be good just to get all these guys involved and ready to play on any given night. You never know when your number is going to get called, so there's that side of it as well. But and during this 4-game win streak, they've had 5 double-digit scores in every single one of those games. So I think that's pretty encouraging that the ball's getting moved around, and it's not just 1 or 2 or 3 guys that are impacting the offense. It's really a team effort, and that's how this team's going to win. It's not going to be because of hero ball or having the big 3. It's going to be everyone getting involved. The role players knocking down shots, making the right plays. And I think the rotation, once we get more of this big 3 together, which hopefully will continue their next game, then I think we're going to start to see more of a consistent rotation. But obviously, Vogel is not afraid to experiment at all. And I think just it's probably going to be pretty matchup dependent too. So I think this is probably just going to be kind of the norm. But if certain guys really step up for a long stretch, then by all means, there's minutes to go around.
Yeah, Vogel did say he wants to settle it, but, I guess I can answer my own question a little bit of why it changed by looking last night on New Year's Eve against Orlando, where they had 6 bench points and nobody could really do much of anything. So, if it's not going to work, then he's not going to stick with it just because guys made a big play or two in one random game. I am surprised, I will say, that Saban Lee just kind of has gotten banished back to the bench again. Like, I thought he played pretty solid for a couple games, and not like there's anybody else really kind of in his place. Maybe it was just until Beal comes back, let's just have some defense on the court at the guard spots, and then, put him back down to the bench. Goodwin's still not playing either, so I guess it might just be Beal, but I think Saban's pretty good. I think he deserves a shot. We'll see. All right, let's close out the show talking standings. The Suns are quietly, obviously, on this 4-game win streak, but also now back firmly in play-in contention and marching their way toward the top 6 in the Western Conference. So we'll break down where they sit on the Western Conference bracket. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel, the best place to make a bet. The NFL season wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when your team wins when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 straight into your account in bonus bets, win or lose. Oh, we're not doing winning anymore. I didn't even notice. FanDuel improved their offer. It is simply by placing the bet, you get it into your account. I already had the NFL odds up to give you the big money line, so you might as well just throw that $5 bet on something you're going to win. For instance, the Cowboys are minus 900 favorites on the road in Washington. That's the biggest favorite of the weekend. Sometimes it just helps to get you going in the right direction with something you can feel good about, but there's also live same-game parlays, new bets in the Explore tab, and a parlay hub with popular ones to pile on to that other people created. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to explore it and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Brandon, let's close it out. The Suns are now 18-15, 5-5 in their last 10. Obviously, a 4-game win streak, which means they were 1-5 prior to that. But the Dallas Mavericks lost tonight in Kyrie Irving's return. The Pelicans still can't fully get their act together, although they're 7-3 in their last 10. And then you just have kind of that middle group of basically Denver, the Clippers, and the Kings, who have 11 or 12 losses apiece. That's not that far off from the Suns either. So how are you kind of setting expectations? There's a big game coming up against the Clippers. The Grizzlies, that's a tough game, not standings-wise. We're not that far from the trade deadline when teams start to make decisions. What do you think are kind of reasonable hopes to have? And obviously looking even beyond that, how important is it for the Suns to get into that top 4 and get home court and all that type of stuff? What's your energy related to all of those considerations for this team?
Oh, I think it's very important to get home court for this team and really go on a run here and start rattling off some wins because, like you said, they're 4 games ago before this win streak started. They were on the outside looking in, and now all of a sudden they're 2 games back from the 4 seed and having that home court. And the Clippers, they started slow and everyone kind of piled on them and all that, but they've gotten their act together and they've won 8 of their last 10. So I think this next game is going to be a big one. And look, the Suns' schedule is not easy. They got 6 games in 9 nights. So to start off the new year and dating back to this back-to-back, obviously. So I think it's going to be a tough one and, hopefully set the tone with a win against the Clippers and really just get another win streak going. Like they had that, we saw that 7-game win streak earlier this season, what that did for them in the standings and kind of made it toward their little collapse where the sky was falling, kept them in the play-in contention. So I think just building as much of a cushion as you can as possible. We obviously don't know what's going to happen health-wise for the Suns or the rest of the West. So just trying to stack as many wins as you can. That's why we're not going to take a win against the Hornets or Blazers or whoever for granted at this point, because just based off how this season has gone. So I think just trying to win as many games as you can early on and just hope you develop the chemistry while that's happening. And that's the tough part. And so the Clippers are another great example of that. So I'm really looking forward to this next game. It's, the first game of the season I looked at and I've thought, this one's kind of big, a little bit, like for a regular season game in January at least.
Absolutely. I'm pumped for it. They play them again 5 days later. So the 4 teams ahead of the Suns right now in the West, they play all of them at least one time the rest of the month. So the Clippers Wednesday and then the following Monday. They then play the Kings on January 16th at home. They play the Mavs on the 24th on the road. And they play the Pelicans, actually between those two on the 19th on the road. So it is an important, this time of year, it starts to feel like every game is important. If they had, maybe lost this game to Portland on the second night of a back-to-back, it would have felt disappointing, but maybe that's an example of a not-so-big game, but pretty much every single time that they take the court, especially while they're trying to work themselves out of this rut, I think it's going to be pretty big. I don't know, though. I have to admit to you, as far as home court advantage goes, obviously the home game aspect of that is important, but I think that just like the past several years, it's going to be so impossible to tell what seed you actually want and what matchup is actually favorable and all that stuff until the final buzzer of the final game on the last night of the season. Like, I have no idea what to expect, and I could easily see, let's say the Suns got all the way up to 3, I could see it being like, all right, congrats, you're playing Denver. You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea if it's even going to be beneficial to work your way up there. So, yeah, I guess it's just the literal home court advantage more than anything, but they don't want to be in the play-in. I think everybody can agree with that. They need to get to the top 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of just the nature of what the modern regular season has turned into in the NBA at this point, as far as like seeding goes. Like in the past, it's like you need, the number 1 seed to avoid this or the number 2 seed to avoid this. And now it's like, we don't know like how hard these guys are going to try or who's going to get hurt and what the matchups are going to look like. So I think the best case scenario you could do is just try to get home court and just hope the chips fall where they may. But even if that results in it backfiring, like I think it's more important for them to get wins and develop that chemistry and just hope they head in playoffs healthy at this point. So definitely the West is just kind of this is one of the weirdest years like in the Western Conference like I can remember. I don't know if just kind of zooming out a little bit, just if you really look at what's happened, it's just kind of a weird season. So it's like,
Minnesota and Oklahoma City are at the top by a good margin. And then you once again have, I was just going to say this when you were talking about the modern NBA and all that. We have, it's more so in the West, but we have Luka, LeBron, and Steph right now as play-in teams, and in Steph's case, outside looking in teams. And again, Minnesota and Oklahoma City at the top of all of it. So it is a very strange situation. The Suns do have the most difficult schedule outside of Portland left in the NBA. I know that went around as they were in their kind of low point of like, and they have the most difficult, schedule that they have to try to play to get their way out of it. It doesn't, I always think some of that gets overblown personally because the difference between the Suns at a 53% win percentage of their opponents remaining versus the middle of the pack is 3 percentage points. It's like, okay, it's not going to decide the whole standings based on that minimal of a difference.
Situational too. Yeah,
exactly.
Like
somebody looks good now.
Yeah.
But then there's an injury or there's, a trade or somebody tears it down. Yeah, it's kind of like that stat that's going around in the NFL where, although this doesn't look great to say this week after they lost another disappointing game, but how like the Dolphins haven't beat a team over 500 or whatever. It's like, well, that changes based on when you're saying it, so you can't always pinpoint it. But yeah, I think I just think they have to be pretty focused and determined the rest of the way. I think every team is going to have to be that, but that's the result, bigger, more than anything else, of the struggles that they had and the health problems that they've had is they don't get any kind of nights off or take it easy types of nights. Mm-hmm. They have to. I mean, they lost 2 games to the Spurs already, right? So that's a perfect example of what happens when you kind of take your focus off of what needs to be done. So yeah, I think this month will be pretty big.
Yeah, for sure. And as long as they stay healthy, like I can promise you one thing: those teams that worked hard for those high seeds, they're not going to want to see Phoenix in the second round or potentially first. Like if things really fall apart, but like if, this is a team that you could make fun of the Suns all you want early on with how their struggles or whatever you want, but like if they head in the playoffs, they have their big 3. Like they're not a team that people are going to want to see early. So I think that's just another factor. There's a lot of teams like that too, where these guys are working hard all season, and you end up with a team that's kind of coasted in the regular season and then clicks at the right time. That's when upsets happen. So I'm really looking forward to, not to get too ahead of myself, but not just on the Suns point of view, but just the entire West, like what the playoff bracket's going to look like. Because I think this could be a season where maybe the 1 and 2 seed go down in the first round. And I don't know. There's going to be some wild stuff happening. It's a wild West, and we'll
is
see.
Is there a team that you want the Suns to play that you think they match up really well against? If you're looking at it right now, not really based on the standings. I'm just saying of any of the first round opponent that you're actually would be good if they played them. I think they can beat them. That type of thing.
I wouldn't mind Minnesota, as good as they've looked, and I think they're a legitimately good team and would cause some problems for sure. But if you can, I feel like you can expose Gobert in some small ball lineups and really throw Durant at their 5, do some creative things with that. And I think we have enough offensive firepower to where they're going to have some trouble slowing them down. And Minnesota's defense has been good, but is it the same mold of a Utah back when they had Gobert? Is it regular season good or is it playoff good? And that's a team that I think they would definitely. I'm not saying I'm just looking at the top half of the West as far as teams that I think the Suns could expose. And that's just the first thing that comes to mind. Just I'd be curious to see them.
So
it'd be a tough matchup, but I'd love it.
The Suns should shoot for the 8 seed to play the number 1 seed Timberwolves. You heard it here first, everybody. That will wrap us up for the day. A little taste of the standings to set off the new year. Enjoy the win, everybody. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe wherever you found the show. Become an everydayer. Get locked onto the Suns right here every day, all season long. I will catch you guys tomorrow.